evening, beautiful humans. I'm Mary Laura Cato, and this is the Melanin Culture, the hallowed ground where ordinary people of melanin get to share their extraordinary stories, passions, genius, gifts, and their unique insight into the human experience. It is also the space where we have raw, honest discussions on daily topics that affect us all and actually need wider and greater discussion. Today is our maiden voyage, and oh, do we have a show for you. The topic that we will be exploring today is holding on to your ethnicity whilst also being an Australian citizen. We're going to hear from three amazing African Australian women, on their journey and experiences. Now, let's get straight to the TMC stories to hear from our exceptional guests. My first guest tonight is Rhoda Camilleri. Rhoda is passionate about teaching others how to earnestly connect with like-minded people interested in building a world that honors the dignity of humans and inclusively celebrates the ingenuity of eclectic glyphs, talents, experiences, and perspectives. She is a seeker, a connector, a community builder, and tonight she will be speaking on rejecting the narratives that the world has for you and unashamedly crafting and embracing your very own narrative.
My beautiful child, I wish that you knew that you were fascinating, that you were smart, empathetic, witty, and lovable. You do not need to be their piñata so that you can experience what it means to play, to not be ignored. Your skin is not the color of shit. You will not contaminate people if you choose to touch them. Your scent, my sweet innocent child, is akin to innocence and jasmine, not feces. You, my beloved, are worthy of respect. Your hair is not rope to be climbed, ripped out and conquered. It is not an accessory to be worn around the necks of your tormentors like trophies. It is functional art to be appreciated. It is your mother's most precious gifts, her creativity, her patience, her time. I wish that you knew that you could tell them that your blood too is red, that you have no reason to lie, that it is not necessary for them to peel back your flesh with their talon-like nails to find out you also see plasma when your skin is unexpectedly exposed. When you come home riddled with anxiety, you do not need to keep your mouth shut. When asked, why are you so hungry? You do not need to keep your mouth shut. When asked about the bruises that stain your mahogany armor, you do not need to lie. You can strike back. You can hit hard. You're entitled to use your fists, use your rage, use your intellect, to muster your courage, to use your words. My sweet child, things will get better. You will become stronger. You will find your voice. You will find perspective. You will find your tribe. You will find love, and eventually you will forgive. In 2014, a beautiful friend of mine gave me the most precious gift that I didn't realize was a gift at the time. It was a ticket to go and attend a spoken word poetry workshop at the Queensland State Library. I had gotten into spoken word poetry 2 years beforehand, and there was this resonance with these people who spoke so confidently and so vulnerably about their experiences, something that I had struggled to do all my life, growing up here, growing up other. You see, it was a survival mechanism for me to keep my mouth shut, to assimilate, to pretend that I could be something that I knew that I never would be, just so that I could survive. So when I got this ticket and I attended my first workshop and I walked through the door, I was greeted with a smile and a warmth by a goddess, a Somali British woman by the name of Wansan Shire, another person who was also from the African diaspora that knew what it was to grow up in a world that is other. Through her guidance, I learnt how to find my voice. I learned how to speak my truth. I learned the power of being unapologetic and owning your experiences. And I also learned that it is okay to be in a position where you can express respectful dissent as long as it comes from a place of love and empathy. My entire life, I have been in a space where I have learned to become what I thought was comfortable being other. Reconciling what it meant to be a Ugandan Banyankole woman in Australia. And then on the flip side, when I'd go overseas, learn it was to be an Australian in Uganda. In a place where I thought I could reconcile all that it meant to be the contradictions in this one form. When connecting in with others, I realized that I could no longer let the world determine what that meant for me. Interestingly enough, it took until the age of 26 for me to realize that I could decide what my identity would be. I had gotten to a place where I was strong enough for myself that I could decide what it was I would listen to. And it was the first time going overseas, traveling through multiple countries, speaking to many different people from different places, different cultures, different ethnicities, different life experiences, that I realized that the most important voice for me to pay attention to was my own. I'm now the mother of two beautiful children that are multi-ethnic, children that are blessed to be able to call home many different countries, not only on paper, but also through their lineage. And I realized that I needed to reconcile what it meant for me to be who I am in my body, in this time, in this country. It's interesting because my entire life I have had a very strong voice, but I have spent such a long time trying to hide it because of fear of retribution. It's an interesting thing to be in a space where you find other people that have a very similar experience to you, and the fear of vulnerability causes you to shut those people out the most. But what I know to be true now is that when you use your voice and you speak about your experiences, in the words of Marianne Williamson, you also unconsciously give people permission to do the same. And so it's now, in my 36th year, that I've decided it's time for me to use my voice, to start speaking my truth, to start reaching out to other people, and to start being in a position where I can have conversations from a place of authenticity and vulnerability that once used to scare me. It seems crazy now that I'm having this conversation with you, for me to say this. But the truth of the matter is I realize now that the person that I needed to reconcile and make peace with the most was myself. I've been raised by two incredibly strong, proud, phenomenal humans that had a vision for their life that was grander than what most people could possibly imagine. They chose to come to this country and start again with literally nothing and build a life for the generations that would come after them. And I realize now that I have stood on their shoulders and I'm a custodian for the future. And as a custodian for the future, I now need to be putting down roots and making a very safe foundation for these people that are my kin. But even further than that, people within my community that may feel lost, that may feel as though they don't have a home, that may feel as though they don't have connection to self or to others. Growing up in Australia, there are many privileges. But what isn't spoken about is that when you come here, you need to intentionally breathe life of culture into your children. You need to be telling them the stories. You need to be speaking to them about their lineage. You need to be explaining to them the importance of language, because there are some things that can never be translated. It's interesting because I think as an Australian and as an African, or more specifically a Banyankole, I realize that when your parents come here, they're trying their hardest also to survive. And in my case, my parents were working 24/7. So it was easier for them to speak to us in English. They made a concerted effort every 3 to 5 years to take us back so that we could become very accustomed to our own people, culture, language. But culture is a lived experience. A stint every 6 to 8 weeks, every few years is not enough. We need to be breathing life back into the stories. We need to be talking about the wisdom that was passed down, the innovations. We need to be talking about the revolutions. We need to be talking about the mentality. Because when you open up as a parent and start talking to your children about these things, which previously beforehand, you didn't have to consciously communicate to your children if you grew up in a country where you were the majority, because the culture would do that work for you. But if you are here now as a minority, you need to breathe life into those conversations for your kids, because they need to know that when somebody comes at them with a narrative that they have not crafted for themselves, that narrative is something that should be ignored. They need to have so much faith in the foundation of who it is they are as a being, that they are instinctively not searching for more information in the opinions of others. Instead, it's really important that we pay attention to the things and that we breathe into our children. Yes, it is important for them to get an education, but education doesn't just come from books, and it's not just from the school system. We need to be talking to them about what it means to fulfill their spirit. And it's a deeper conversation than just taking your kids to places of faith. It's a deeper conversation than just taking your kids to places of community. It's a space where you teach your children how to go inside of themselves and to learn how to speak to the inner knowing and guidance in a place of calmness and in a place of certainty. These are things that I'm still learning as I travel along my journey. And these are things that I believe that I will continue to learn for the rest of my life. One thing I do know for sure is that as my children look at me, they are asking me, is this how a person does life? And as I get to the end of my life, and God willing, I see them being able to give birth to their own, I want to be able to say with certainty, yes, give yourself a space where you can be truly, honestly, and authentically vulnerable in how it is you choose to be. Because the only way that you can experience a life that can change a life is by being that change to begin with.
Thank you for watching The Melanin Culture. We are building a community and a platform that celebrates and showcases ordinary people and the extraordinary stories, gifts, genius, insight, and experiences that they have across the city and across this country at large. So if you or anyone that you know has a story or a gift or experience that they want to share and connect with others, then email us at themelanaculture@gmail.com. It's on the screen and it's in the bio. We would love to hear from you. So like, comment, share, and join the culture.